Hello, you're with IndiaPostLive.com. It's the first of its kind live news conversation web TV. Indian Navy has seen a series of accidents, including submarine mishaps in the last couple of months. The Navy is facing a leadership crisis and seeing a rocky patch. Who really will be the next chief? Well, the answer came in late last evening. Admiral Dhawan was appointed as the next Chief of Naval Staff, and interestingly, later in the night, there was a resignation by the commanding officer, the CNC, Shekhar Sinha. What really then is brewing in the leadership ranks of the Indian Navy? We try and find out.
After much hue and cry about the vacant chair in South Block, expecting a new Navy chief 51 days after the former Chief Admiral D.K. Joshi had resigned, owning moral responsibility for a number of mishaps in his time, the government on Thursday announced Admiral Robin Dhawan as its 22nd chief, only to raise more eyebrows than hands of approval. Dhawan, who was commissioned in 1975, has superseded Chief Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, who joined service in 1974. The buzz doing the rounds is that Sinha was targeted on the ground, that most accidents that took place in the past months were under his watch in the Western Naval Command. So what is it going to be? Will Sinha stand up to counter the allegations or let sleeping dogs lie?
And like we've raised a question, clearly the appointment of the new Navy chief has raised eyebrows. And will there be a legal controversy, or what exactly will unfold in the next couple of weeks with Admiral Robin Dhawan superseding Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, who has now resigned, citing voluntary retirement? To take this conversation forward at India Post Live, we have very esteemed guest in the studio. We have Rear Admiral retired Raja Menon, who is a maritime and strategy expert. Thank you so much, Admiral, for joining us. And we also have Commodore Rajan Veer from the Indian Maritime Foundation in Pune, who will also share his experiences and his insights on this issue, joining us via Skype. You can also put in your feedback and comments on our Twitter handle @IndiaPostLive and our website IndiaPostLive.com. I'll come to you first, Menon sir. Could you tell us what really unfolded here? Is it a historic decision in terms of seniority, being superseded with experience, or the fact that Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha was in the hot seat in the last couple of months with the number of incidents?
Yeah, is it historic? I would think so, because for a number of years the Indian system has been to go by selecting the most senior in a batch of officers. There is no cut and dried law that is the system to be followed, but that has been the system that has been followed. But there was a time when there used to be something called deep selection, which is to say that among a batch of officers, you did not necessarily select the senior most, but you selected the one who had the best report. And if he happened to be junior to a number of people, he was selected, and the others traditionally resigned.
Right.
Now again, there's nothing written down in law saying that you should resign, but there have been occasions during the deep selection process when people who have been superseded have felt slighted and have put in representations. But there are many services, both the armies, navies, air forces all over the world, who don't follow the senior most principle, and they go in for deep selection. I mean, the Americans, for instance, when they choose their chiefs and chiefs of staff, go in for deep selection.
Right.
And the others have the option to resign.
Right.
So in our case, we have had very few instances when we have set aside the seniority principle. So I suppose it comes as a shock now.
Do you feel that this will raise many eyebrows, considering that, it will also change the line of succession in the next couple of chiefs appointments?
Well, when the chief, that is Admiral Joshi, resigned, he already disturbed the line of succession.
Right.
So that has been disturbed whichever chief you may choose. So that's not an issue. That has happened in the past when, for instance, a general passed away in his while serving.
Serving.
The line of succession was disturbed.
Right.
So such occasions do occur.
Okay.
That's not unusual.
Right. I'll bring in Commodore Rajan Veer at this point. Sir, thank you so much for joining us at the conversation. We appreciate your insight. In your experience, what kind of message will this send out? Already, Admiral Dhawan was the stand-in chief when Admiral D.K. Joshi resigned. Was it, inevitable that he would be made the chief, Admiral Dhawan would be made the chief, or because there were reports of other contenders in the line as per seniority principle, like Mr. Menon sir was pointing out?
No, I don't think that, as you mentioned, that there is in your preamble, your introduction, that there is a leadership crisis. I think what is happening is perfectly normal. And Admiral Dhawan, who was the Vice Chief of Naval Staff, and then a panel of names was put up after Admiral D.K. Joshi resigned for the new naval chief, and 4 names, from we understand from the press, 4 names were sent, which is usually the case. This is how it is done, and the option always lies with the government. And as Admiral Menon has mentioned, that we have been following a particular procedure in the past, that we've been promoting the senior most. Well, that needn't be the case in all cases, because the government has the option. Because when they are selecting, that is the purpose of selection. That is why they call for names. It is the senior most people who are there, and they consider that. And it is not one person who is deciding that. It's the cabinet committee, and then it goes through a particular process, and the best person is the officer is chosen. And I think the system works perfectly well. So, and I don't think that we need to make too much of this, that a person has been selected who has superseded another person. This happens from time to time. It may not have happened in the Indian Navy for some time, but it does happen, and it is the right way. In my view, it is the right way to do it, because the government must always keep the option, must always have the option of choosing the best person at that time, taking into account his reports, and there are all kinds of reports are fed into the government about the candidates who have to be selected. So I think it is perfectly normal what has happened, and if Admiral Shekhar Sinha has resigned, well, he has done the best thing in the best traditions of the service. He has accepted this, and I think the service officers are brought up, they are taught, they are trained to accept this, because we follow a particular pyramid. Pyramid becomes narrower as we go to the top, and it is the right for the service, is right for the country, that the best people will come out to the top and not follow the seniority principle.
So wouldn't you say that there was a lot of pressure on the government to try and put out, an image or project, a collective consciousness, because Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha was the person in the supervisory command in the Western Naval Command where the series of accidents happened, and he was under a lot of pressure and a lot of criticism that he was facing. So probably his candidature, those are the factors that weighed against him.
Well, I think a lot of this is media speculation that this may have happened. The names are sent to the government, and an overall view is taken by the government. I don't agree that Admiral Shekhar Sinha's case, that it is for us to comment on this now. We don't know. It's all in their reports. It is not for us to comment as that this may well have happened, that he has been superseded for a particular reason. It may not have been so. So I personally think a lot of it is media speculation. What has happened is the perfect normal course of things.
Right. Menon sir, would you like to shed some light on the fact that there are factors which are being played out, that Admiral Dhawan hasn't really had experience as a CNC or an operations command chief. So Could that have been also one of the factors which, that the government or the CCS could have factored in while trying to weigh out other options and contenders?
I'm sure this must have been a factor that must have been on the government's mind, but the job that he was doing, which is the Vice Chief of the Navy, is no less an onerous task than Commander-in-Chief. So I don't think the government has committed an error by any means. And normally, as has already been stated, if the government decides that it is not going to follow the selection of the senior most, it doesn't give reasons as to how they came upon their decision. So, as you say, there were a number of accidents. So, the media can put two and two together and say that that's probably the reason. But as has been stated, that's a speculation.
But that clearly the government in its letter, as per sources in the ministry, has become a factor, because he was directly in supervisory command when the, accidents happened. There was a loss of life. A lot of questions were raised about the efficiency and the operational preparedness of the Western Naval Command, because it was right under Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha's leadership that all of the incidents happened.
Well, as far as the incidents are concerned, I think they have been blown up to some extent. I mean, of course, the loss of a submarine is a catastrophic episode. But that apart, the other incidents were, in my opinion, largely trivial. So I don't think, these kind of accidents happen quite often in any large navy. So I don't think that is a factor. But the resignation of Admiral Joshi is where he took moral responsibility. I mean, he wasn't saying that there were lapses under his leadership as a result of which the accidents occurred. Taking moral responsibility is quite different from taking professional responsibility.
But sir, then don't you feel that the government, anyways, if it was inevitable that Admiral Dhawan take over, because he was the stand-in chief after Admiral D.K. Joshi's resignation, that the government should not have waited for 2 months to, come up with his name as the final decision? What really took so much time?
Yeah, I mean, whatever decision they decided to come to, there's clearly no reason for them to have waited for 2 months. I mean, that's an unpardonable lapse. This is no way for a service to be left without a head while the government is cogitating as to who should be the next chief. Admiral Joshi has taken a very courageous decision and created an unprecedented situation. The government must react in that unprecedented situation.
Exactly.
And come up with the name of a chief.
Exactly.
I mean, the fact that it's a difficult choice doesn't mean that you can take 2 months over it.
Exactly, sir. So that really is a point. We'll also try and put in that question to Kapil Chandni, who is the editor at bharatrakshak.com. It's the most comprehensive website for the armed forces related resource and information. Thank you so much for joining us on Google Hangout, Kapil. Your insight on this issue would be more than welcome. You've been trying and, reading up on this topic, and you've seen how events have unfolded. What kind of, impact does it have in terms of procurements, the delay that the government, the time that it took in, actually appointing the naval chief, and what message does it send out to the men in blue, the officers and the sailors in the ranks?
Yeah, hi. Well, procurements are a long-term process. I mean, these cycles happen over a long period of time, and I'm pretty sure that the Navy and senior commanders, as well as the ministry.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, so the procurements will happen over a long period of.
Please go ahead, Kapil.
Yes. Yeah, so there doesn't, the procurement processes are a, well thought out process, and these take a long period of time. Decisions and negotiations and evaluations happen over multiple levels and multiple stages. So procurements per se will not be affected so much, but it's having a Navy chief in office who can constantly push the babus and the politicians that this is what the Navy needs. I mean, that's his main job, being in Delhi, being in naval headquarters, being the representative of the service. It's his, he has to push for this, that, this is what my men need, this is what my crews need, this is what my ships need. So in that effect, yes, it has made a difference. 2 months have just been lost, and now the new CNS has to come and start, this process all over again with a new government and everything. So yes, and morale wise, I think, well, it's a very nice institution. People do feel bad, people must have felt bad, but I think everybody is moving on, and that is what one would wish for, that after all that has happened, much recrimination, much politicking, that the Navy stays one, the Navy stands in this together, and just moves ahead, forgetting what, I mean, just going past what has happened and just sails ahead in a way.
Kapil, you've been observing the armed forces for several years now. Have you seen this kind of a decision and a delay or a leadership crisis as such in the other forces, in the Air Force or the Army? What have been your observations, and what are your views on the entire controversy of the Western Naval Chief, being superseded by the stand-in chief who's now been appointed?
Well, I really do not know. I mean, these other two gentlemen are much more qualified and capable of answering that question. Again, my point is that whatever decision has been taken, I wish that, just move ahead now. Just go ahead with it. These kind of looking and analysis can happen later, but right now the Navy needs the chief, and, let everybody work with the chief, whoever has been appointed.
Right. Commodore Rajanveer, I'll just come back to you, sir. We are having a lot of views and feedback on our Twitter handle @IndiaPostLive. You can also put in your comments and voices on this entire issue and bring in your ideas and thoughts on what do you think about the new leadership in the Indian Navy, what kind of impact will happen, and the months ahead critical for the Indian naval leadership, what kind of message does it send out? You can join in. We have Snow Leopard who's tweeting saying, why can't we have, why can't we finalize defense deals? Why don't we have indigenous development facilities? And is there a leadership crisis in the Navy, or does the Defense Ministry, have its own systemic problems? So I will take it to Commodore Rajanveer first, sir. What do you think about these kind of questions being raised by the people who are observing, so much happening in our, Navy command? What are your thoughts in terms of the delay that the government took? Do you feel it's a bureaucratic problem in terms of choosing the name, and what kind of message does it send out to the forces, the people in the ranks among the officers and the sailors?
Well, I would like to reiterate what I said earlier, that there's absolutely no leadership crisis which is being referred to, because if a new chief has come in, or if there's no chief for 2 months, even that I do not agree really that it makes much of a difference, because the command and control in the services is such that at all levels it continues to function. It does not in any way imply because the naval chief is not there for 2 months, the Navy will stop functioning. Nothing stops functioning. Everything goes on as normal. And with the naval chief having now come in, I don't think we need to exercise too much. They've taken too long over it. Well, it's 50 days. 50 days has been taken. We know that the government is preoccupied with. They've got only a few weeks to go now before this government changes. The elections are going on. A lot is going on. And if they've deliberated on these names, they may well have taken much longer in this case, because they were selecting a person who is superseding somebody else. And this may well have caused some delay. But having done that, I don't think there is any leadership crisis. And what has happened is perhaps we should accept it as quite normal.
So wouldn't you at all, be curious in terms of what really has been happening in the Indian Navy in the past few years? In fact, the Defense Minister A.K. Antony coming under a lot of flack for the lack of decisive leadership that he has shown. It actually boils down to, the people taking decisions in terms of operations, planning, procurement in the Navy. The chiefs and several people in the Navy are actually, bearing the brunt of a lack of leadership from the ministry side as well, sir. Would you actually discount the entire factor?
No, I wouldn't discount that. I entirely agree there. There have been so many issues and so many problems we've been reading about, and that there have been delays in procurement, and the well, in fact, I would say, as someone from the Indian Maritime Foundation view, that being in Delhi, far away from the oceans, a lot of the problems which concern our oceans, our seas, they get swept under the carpet until some upheaval occurs, and then we all wake up. So we really suffer from a disadvantage, having our decision making on the Navy as far as Delhi, far away from the oceans. But that does happen. That does happen, and we know about these procurement delays, and those should be corrected. One would not like to sweep them under the carpet, and we know we have, and this is not something that it is new. The bureaucratic delays and the relationship between the government and the services, there have always been problems. I mean, for as long as I can remember, in the last 30 or 40 years, this decline occurred, and it has probably come to a head now, and perhaps something will happen now with the help of the media, since this has been highlighted, these problems and issues have been highlighted, and we hope in the months to come, some corrections will take place.
So clearly there's going to be a big task ahead for the new Navy chief. He's of course been, in his position in the naval headquarters. He's been in close quarters to see how the naval chief and his decisions and the tough task he's had in terms of negotiating and dealing with the bureaucrats and the defense ministry leadership. So do you feel now that he has a tough task ahead, not only in trying to boost the morale, especially in the Western Naval Command, which has seen a series of accidents and problems that they've seen, but also in the fact that dealing with the bureaucracy and the defense leadership here in Delhi is something that will be a big challenge for the new naval chief, Admiral Dhawan?
Yes, I think so. It will be a challenge, but I know Admiral Dhawan, as most of the others senior officers do, that he will rise to the occasion and will do a wonderful job of this. And I think if the morale of the Navy was marginally affected by these unfortunate things which have happened with the new naval chief resigning and all that will be restored in good order in the months to come, and we do not have anything to worry about. We should be confident that there'll be happy sailing ahead.
Great. Thank you so much, Commodore Rajan Veer, for joining us on Skype, for your insight. We also have another esteemed guest who has just joined us in the studio, Mr. Saurabh Joshi, who's a senior journalist with Stratpost. Thank you so much for joining us at the conversation at India Post Live. Do put in your feedback, views and comments to what the entire discussion about the naval leadership and the issues facing them in the months ahead that we are discussing here. Mr. Joshi, I'll just come to you. We were discussing about, has it raised eyebrows, the delay, not only in appointing the new naval chief, but the fact that he was set to retire in May this year and now he will have an extended tenure. So, as we were told by Menon sir that it is a historic decision. It may have happened much before and in other navies across the world, but not really in the Indian Navy. What are your views on this issue?
Well, yeah, it's hardly an ideal situation. But the sense I get is that, it was also the delay was also on the political side, because nobody wanted to seem to be, impulsively or superseding an officer impromptu. So it was
knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be seen as a knee-jerk reaction. And remember, this is right after the accident on board the submarine under Admiral Sinha's command. So it was important. That's the sense I get, that it was important that it not be seen to be, a direct, that there needs to be some sort of time period to pass before, the decision be made. But that said, again, it's not an ideal situation. This is not how it should have gone down.
Right, and also the fact that Admiral Dhawan was set to retire and Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha's name was also coming up along with other contenders from the Eastern Naval Command as well, Vice Admiral Anil Chopra. So, do you feel that this has created some sort of an unwarranted topic of conversation amongst people not only in the Navy but outside, onlookers, observers and analysts such as yourself, sir?
Well, let me say that promotions are always a hotly discussed topic, naturally, because it decides the future of officers, and some officers go up and some officers go out. So I won't deny that it will be discussed, and it will be discussed particularly because in this particular instance, the government has chosen not to go by the seniority principle.
Exactly.
And that doesn't mean that there will be any derogatory comments. As has already been said, it is the government's prerogative, the appointments committee of the cabinet, to choose the best person whom they think fit. The only departure in this case is that under normal circumstances, a chief retiring in the normal course of events would have had some influence on who his successor would be. But the abrupt nature of Admiral Joshi's departure has removed that input and therefore left the entire decision on the Ministry of Defence. In that sense, there is a difference from the normal procedure. But I am proud of my former service, both from the point of view of the resignation of Admiral Joshi, which has been recognized as a highly principled stand. And now the tradition has been upheld that when you get superseded, then you normally resign. Again, there's not a law, it's not written down anywhere.
Right.
But Admiral Sinha, in choosing to put in his resignation, has upheld that unwritten tradition. So the Navy will go forward on a very clean slate.
Right. Mr. Joshi, I'll bring you in here. At this point, we were discussing with both the Commodore and Menon sir here about the kind of message that this will, put across. The delay not only in his appointment, but the pending files, the clearances of many decisions. There was, a void in terms of leadership already that the Navy is actually feeling the effects of the kind of incidents that have happened, several controversies, loss of lives, in fact, very young lives. The men in uniform have been lost forever. So the submarine accidents actually being a critical stage, and deciding the leadership role of, where Admiral D.K. Joshi actually took moral responsibility. So don't you feel that the kind of message that went down by actually putting Admiral Dhawan in the top boss's, seat now, what kind of message will the officers and men be actually getting now?
Well, it's actually a difficult question to answer because while I wouldn't say that there's this sort of the how things have turned out has created bad blood. It has left a bad taste in the mouth. Whether due to circumstances, of course, accidents happen, and this happened, and the chief decided to resign, but the way things have gone down has created all sorts of strange little conspiracy theories. There are people talking about this is an attempt to fix aviators in the Navy. There are all kinds of theories going on. There's always intra-service rivalry going on. My stream should get ahead of your stream, that sort of thing.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that this sort of situation has also given rise to those sorts of whispers, rumors, and the new chief needs to sort of make sure that this is where it stops. This is where send across the message in his actions through initiatives that he needs to take, that this is where the whispers need to stop.
And if you look at the macro issue of, lack of decisive leadership coming from the Defence Ministry as such, A.K. Anthony's role and, his lack of initiative or decision-making capabilities have also come under the spotlight in the last couple of years. What is the message that you've been getting and the feelers you've been getting from people who are actually serving and people at the higher level in the Navy?
About the minister's leadership?
Yes.
There is no leadership. There is absolutely no leadership. We have an absentee defense minister. He may occupy the office, but he's not in the chair.
What do you have to say to that, Kapil? Do you feel that you also got that vibe from people you've been speaking to, in terms of the army versus the Air Force leadership and what the Navy has been going through?
Well, no, not really. I mean, the Navy has, being a coastal force, I think has always got the full attention of the defense minister in many ways. Look at the infrastructure that they are building up in the defense minister's home state and all that. And some middle ranking officers of the other two services have been, frankly, been jealous, of the Navy in that case. But yes, there have been occasions when one wished that the defense minister would have acted more proactively, not just in this situation but in other situations, that he would have been more open, he would have been more communicative. But there are one wish that those things would have happened. But having said that, like most defense ministers have been like that. So it's just one in a long line of defense ministers.
Right. A lot of cynicism coming from Kapil there. Sir, your last thoughts on the lack of proactive leadership from the defense ministry. Clearly, he is the man in charge. He is the one who is the final authority. Shouldn't he have been more dynamic in his leadership, in his role that he's been entrusted with?
Well, my view is that the leadership from the Ministry of Defense has not covered itself with any glory. The last 5 years have been 5 lost years. It's not only the Navy but the other two services which have lost a huge number of acquisitions as a result of postponement of decisions and the inability to take decisions. I mean, not that the submarine loss could have been prevented, but certainly the next series of submarines should have been here, but for the fact that it was delayed by the Ministry of Defense, more particularly by the Minister of Defense. Right. So there certainly is a crisis of leadership coming from the Ministry of Defense.
Exactly. On that note, I'll just read out a tweet. Sanjeev says, why has the UPA2 taken so many controversial decisions related to defense? Saint Anthony doesn't seem so saintly. You can also write in and take forward this conversation. One last comment from you in terms of acquisitions and decision-making capability. What would you, if given a chance, set as a one-point agenda for the next defense minister when we do have one? Saurabh?
Okay, so there are several very crucial acquisitions that are pending. The Navy is grievously short of rotary wing aircraft, helicopters. There are, to my knowledge, at least 3 tenders out for helicopter acquisition. Now you have to understand, you're building up your fleet, you've acquired so many frigates, so many destroyers, you have to have an aerial element to them. Okay, if you don't have them, if you keep using Sea Kings and Chetaks, they may be wonderful aircraft, but they're long past their life. You cannot keep flogging them. The first of those 3 tenders was for a mere 16 helicopters. My indications are that tender process has gone on for so long that those models might even be obsolete now. There might be no point looking at them. As far as the submarine tender is concerned, the process for the acquisition of the next line of submarines, you've got a tender process that is delayed by 15 years and we still haven't issued the tender. When are we going to start building them? When will we acquire them? When will the Navy induct them?
Right.
So, even if the new defense minister signs the tender sheets or the orders on the first day of office, we're not getting anywhere close to where we need to be for the next 5 years anyway. But this is priority.
Right.
We've already let these things hang so long that it's shameful that we've let circumstances come to this.
Right. One last comment from you, Commodore Rajan V there. Sir, what would be your top priority if when the defense minister is appointed next, the government really has a challenging task ahead in trying to resurrect their image in terms of how the defense ministry was led?
Well, the acquisition program, which has already been brought out, the crisis about not having enough submarines, and all the long delays which have occurred, and of course the aerial element which has been brought out is extremely important the acquisition of helicopters. And I think when the new defense minister comes, he'll have to look at it on a priority basis. Another factor is that the longer we delay these acquisitions, the price keeps going up, and then we have to pay a much higher price. And there are several examples one can give where these delays have almost the price goes up, almost double the price we have to pay. I mean, this is something which we need to look at. Their decision making should be much faster, and the things when the cases are put up, they should be done faster. And we hope that the new defense minister will look into these issues, but the bureaucracy is still there. Only the defense minister is coming. The bureaucracy, which has been dealing with these problems, is there, and they have to perk up as well,
Right.
and to give the right priority to the naval acquisitions.
Right. Thank you so much, Commodore Rajanveer of the Indian Maritime Foundation, for joining us with your thoughts on Skype, via Skype video, and our esteemed guests in the studio for your experienced analysis on this issue. There may not be a leadership crisis as of now, but clearly a more proactive and dynamic leadership in the Defence Ministry is the need of the hour. That is what our guests and panelists seem to think. What do you really think that the Indian Navy and the armed forces need in terms of decision making in the years ahead? Do write in and post your comments on our website and our Twitter handle @IndiaPostLive. Thank you for joining us at IndiaPostLive.com. Goodbye.